The battle was over for him. At least, everyone thought it was. A Sahabi lay on the ground, bleeding from a wound that should have ended his fight. No one expected him to stand again. Then he heard a single call. Not his name, not an order. A call to the Ansar. What happened next turned a wounded man into one of the greatest examples of answering Allah's call. This is the story of Abu Aqil radiallahu anhu, the Sahabi who refused to let his wounds become an excuse. The Battle of Yamamah was unlike anything the Muslims had faced before. The enemy fought with desperation. The fighting was fierce. Every step forward came with sacrifice. Swords clashed, spears broke, dust swallowed the battlefield. The cries of the wounded echoed across the plain. Among the brave men of the Ansar stood Abu Aqil. He fought with courage, asking for nothing except the pleasure of Allah. Then, a devastating blow struck him. His neck was badly wounded. Blood flowed freely. His strength left him. His brothers rushed to him. They lifted him from the battlefield and carried him to safety. "Stay here. Your battle is over. You have done enough." Perhaps anyone else would have believed them. His body certainly did. Every breath was painful. Every movement sent pain through his wound. He could barely lift his head. Around him, the battle continued. He could still hear the clash of steel, the cries of the believers, the shouts of the enemy. But he could no longer stand among them. For a warrior who loved striving in the path of Allah, there are wounds that cut deeper than the sword. The deepest wound is believing you can no longer answer His call. The battle was still raging. The Muslims had suffered heavy losses. The lines had begun to break. Victory was far from certain. Then a voice rose above the chaos. A commander called out, not to everyone, but to the Ansar. "O Ansar!" Another call followed. "Stand firm for the sake of Allah." Those words reached Abu Aqil where he lay wounded. His eyes opened. He listened. Again came the call. The Ansar were being summoned back into the fight. He tried to sit up. The pain was overwhelming. Blood had already weakened him. Those beside him urged him to remain where he was. "You are severely wounded. You cannot fight anymore." But Abu Aqil looked toward the battlefield. Then he said words that history would never forget. "The Ansar are being called. How can I remain sitting?" It was not pride. It was not recklessness. It was love for Allah and a heart that could not bear to stay behind while others answered His call. He reached for his weapon. His hands trembled. His body protested every movement, but his determination was stronger than his pain. Slowly, he pulled himself to his feet. Every step hurt. Every breath reminded him of the wound in his neck. Yet he continued forward, not because he believed he was strong, but because he believed Allah was worthy of every remaining step he had left. The battlefield drew closer. The sound of swords grew louder. Dust filled the air once again. A wounded man returned to a place that everyone thought he had already left forever. Abu Aqil returned to the battlefield,
not with the strength he had the day began, but with whatever strength remained. His wound was still bleeding, his body exhausted, yet his heart had never been stronger. He rejoined the ranks of the Ansar. Shoulder to shoulder, they stood once more, not for fame, not for victory alone, but because they refused to abandon the cause of Allah. The fighting intensified. Steel met steel. Voices rose above the dust. Every step demanded more than his wounded body could give. Still, he did not turn back. He had already made his decision. If this was to be his final battle, then let it be fought while answering the call of Allah. Before long, new wounds covered his body. The strength that had carried him back into the fight began to fade. His legs weakened, his sword grew heavy. But he had returned. That was enough. He had answered the call. Abu Aqil fell not while retreating, not while hiding, but while standing among his brothers, serving Allah until his final breath. Some victories are not measured by who walks away from the battlefield. Some victories are measured by who refuses to stay behind. The world remembers those who were too strong to fall. Allah remembers those who stood, even after they already had. More than 14 centuries have passed. The battlefield of Yamamah has long fallen silent. The swords are gone. The dust has settled. The voices of that day have faded into history. But one call still remains. Not the call to a battlefield, the call to stand for Allah. Most of us will never carry a sword. We may never stand where Abu Aqil stood. But every one of us will hear moments when Allah calls us to do what is right, to pray when we feel tired, to speak the truth when it is difficult, to lower our gaze when temptation is near, to remain patient when our hearts are wounded. The test is rarely whether we hear the call. The test is whether we answer it. Abu Aqil answered while bleeding. What excuse will we offer when our bodies are healthy, but our hearts are hesitant? Perhaps that is why Allah preserved his story, not because he was the strongest man on the battlefield, but because he refused to let his wounds become an excuse. If this story leaves us with one reminder, let it be this: Allah does not ask us to be the strongest. He asks us to answer his call with whatever strength we still have. May Allah grant us hearts that respond to his call with sincerity, make us steadfast in times of hardship, and gather us with the righteous and the noble companions of his messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in Jannat al-Firdaus. Ameen.